to spend too much time on context. And honestly, we can sum it up pretty quickly. We are in chapter 10 of Jeremiah. And just to quickly summarize what we've been talking about so far.
Sorry.
Sorry.
We're all over the place. I'm so sorry, Sean. I should have got these chips.
You're good. So just very briefly, like, maybe just a couple sentences. What has been going on in Jeremiah so far? Like, who is Jeremiah? What is God told him to do, and what is God's main issues with Judah?
Jeremiah is a prophet from a priestly family. He has been sent to prophesy to the people of Judah because they have been bad for quite a while now, and they are about to go into exile. So he's like, repent, but there's not much else you can do. Just run, because Babylon's coming, and it's going to be very bad.
Yeah. So what's the two main?
Idolatry.
Yeah.
They have rejected God and turned to other gods.
Yes.
Right.
Also, side note worth pointing out, Jeremiah is 100% not having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, he hates
it's
bawling his eyes out every chance he gets.
And throughout this, we've been seeing his like responses to what God's been telling him to say.
Guys, can we just follow God?
Yeah, and we're gonna see it again here too, and it's gonna get worse. But yeah, all that and just.
Sorry, I read one of the headlines.
Oh, nice. Then just on top of all that, just the fact that God is disciplining Judah for their sins and through Babylon, and just the fact that this is all things that are outlined in God's word from hundreds of years earlier.
Yes.
So this is God's patience coming to a head.
Deuteronomy 32.
Yes, all that.
We didn't even make it a minute without it being.
So that's probably good enough right now for context. We're just going to go ahead and hop in. We're going to try to go a little faster pace. I don't want to like completely sacrifice depth, and so we're not going to like just rush through.
So God chooses them as a prophet before he's born, and he declares judgment on them.
Yeah.
Also stuff before him.
Alright.
So I might be doing bigger chunks of reading, and then maybe if there's anything that sticks out to y'all, we can touch on that and try to summarize more, versus going like verse by verse. So that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and hop in.
Let's do it.
Hear the word which Yahweh speaks to you, O house of Israel. Thus says Yahweh, do not learn the way of the nations, and do not be terrified by the signs of the heavens, although the nations are terrified by them. For the statutes of the people are vanity, because it is wood cut from the forest, the work of the hands of a craftsman with a cutting tool. They make it beautiful with silver and with gold. They strengthen it with nails and with hammers, so that it will not totter. Like a scarecrow in a cucumber field are they, and they cannot speak. They must be carried, because they cannot take a step. Do not fear them, for they can do no harm, nor can they do any good. There is none like you, O Yahweh. You are great, and great is your name in might. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? Indeed, it is your due. For among all the wise men of the nations, and in all their kingdoms, there is none like you. But they are altogether senseless and foolish. They are in a discipline of vanities. It is mere wood. Beaten silver is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz, the work of a craftsman, and of the hands of a goldsmith. Blue and purple are their clothing. They are all the work of wise craftsmen. But Yahweh is the true God. He is the living God, and the everlasting King. At his wrath the earth quakes, and the nations cannot endure his indignation. Stop there real quick. So in those first 10 verses, what's being said?
He's basically calling out the gods of the other nations as being nothing but wood, gold, and silver. And I like the language he's using a lot, like where he says that the gods of the other nations are like a scarecrow in a cucumber's field, where it's just like scarecrows can't talk, but like God actively speaks to his people through the prophets and speaks directly to the prophets.
He's kind of like saying the scarecrow fools, and the idols are, and the people scared of said idols are just fools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As contrasted to Yahweh being the true God.
Yeah.
And obviously this isn't necessarily saying that the other gods don't exist as actual beings, but as we've seen in other previous stories, God just has power over them. Like he is able to override their will, like what happened with Elijah with the story in First King, or I guess it'd be First Kings. Or no, Second Kings, yeah. Where he had the contest with Baal.
Oh, First Kings.
That's probably the very First Kings.
Yeah.
And just examples like that where it doesn't necessarily deny that there's the existence of them, but God has power over them, and so they are not able to save Judah or save Israel.
Well, the idea is that even if they exist, they're being confined to tiny statues. Like, and the whole point is that the great big God of the universe, he's too big for that. You know, like he can't be compared to stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why he says there is none like you. I just want to highlight that echoes like the song that they sang when they got through the Red Sea. Right? Whenever they came on the other side, they're saying, "Who is like you, O Yahweh? Who is like you?" And they like repeat that phrase. And so the fact that he repeats "There's none like you, O Yahweh" like twice in here, it seems like it's intentionally calling back to that, because that's almost like the Israelite like national anthem. Like that's like the first song that they sang as a nation.
It's true.
And so it's like there's a lot of times it like echoes back to that intentionally. And it seems like that's what's happening here.
That may have been the Flash.
Yeah, that caught my attention as well. There was a lightning outside.
But
that was pretty cool.
We're like ADHD.
I know.
It's crazy. We're like all over the place. But
I mean, I was tired, so
yeah.
It's
I
all
don't want to
good.
make excuses, but sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, that's
I think that was lightning.
that's pretty much it, and also kind of pointing out the silliness of, like, even though they don't believe that the gods are the pieces of wood and stone that they're trusting in, it is still the imagery of like they're going with these pieces of wood and these pieces of stone, and they're trusting in them to save them. Kind of like the golden calf. God is not a golden calf. God is not a piece of wood. He's not a stone. He is a living God who is able to withhold himself.
It's kind of like pointing out the silliness and having to, all these gods that they are worshiping are all idols, like a physical idol, like a little statuette or something like that.
Yeah,
God's like, bro.
Yeah, it's
Holy
cool.
Spirit.
I think that verse 8's like real strong. He's just straight saying, that's stupid and you're fools. But when you say golden calf, that makes me think that originally then that they were worshiping like money and like Moloch and like a different thing, whereas this is just like wooden, a scarecrow. It's nothing. But I think they're doing it out of fear. Like they have a different kind of relationship with it, maybe, than the golden calf. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I guess the difference is they call the golden calf Yahweh, whereas they don't call these Yahweh, they call them Baal or whoever. Just two different sides of the same, not the same coin, but they're both wrong. But yeah,
I will say that on that note, verse 8 is pretty strong, just because sometimes I think that our translations just like they sanitize things by just like they almost like take the emotion out of it. But if you were describing somebody as senseless and foolish, like I feel like it just sounds too like calm, like, but they are altogether senseless and foolish.
Yeah.
Like the idea is like in reality he's saying they are complete idiots. Like that's really what he's saying. Like they're foolish, senseless idiots. And he says they are in a discipline of vanities. I looked it up, and the word vanity there is the same one you see in like Ecclesiastes, just like Hevel.
yeah,
It's like the idea is that they're engaged. It's like it's a discipline of vapor. It means nothing, right? Like they just made up things, right? To where these statues, they're bowing down before them as if it's like something significant, but like it's a they made it. Like they did it themselves. Like there's nothing special about this, and that's even true like with how the Israelites treated the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant was significant, but you don't worship it because it's just a box, right? It's like that's not the significant thing. And like it's the same issue we would have nowadays like with Catholics when it comes to like the rosary and stuff. It's like it's just beads. Like these aren't like what like you don't need to treat them with reverence. They're just objects. And like that's kind of why he's like getting annoyed. It's like, guys, these are just it's the work of man's hands. Why would you worship them? Like you made them. That's silly. Like the only person who deserves worship is the one who made man by his own hands. Right? But yeah, so
As I've repeatedly said, that's the issue I have. That's the reason I can't follow Catholicism, is I get so caught up in the ritualistic aspect of it, I wouldn't actively serve God.
yeah. And I think there's times where we probably do similar things in Protestantism as well, but I think with Catholicism it's like a
But that's
more
just
outward.
like that's something that genuinely calls to certain people. Like my brother, for example, the whole reason why he chose Catholicism Catholicism is because he liked the ritualistic order.
And there's a lot of people who are moving towards that, but to me, that's something I'd just be wary of because of that. But anyway, sorry, didn't want to go on a whole Catholic
Some of their prayers are pretty cool though, but like,
Yeah.
I don't like the papacy. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I wasn't trying to take us on a whole Catholic tangent. I'm sorry, I was just trying to get an example. But
Yeah, no, you're good. Last thing I'll mention here is just mention that he does refer to God here as also King of the Nations. And again, this is just a reminder that even though this is addressed to Judah, and the main issue is with Judah chasing the gods of the other nations, God is still God over those gods and God over those nations. So even though Israel is his inheritance, he is still the God of all the nations. And so, as we will later get to, he will also judge them. We can go ahead and move on. Thus you shall say to them, the gods that did not make the heavens and the earth will perish from the earth and from under the heavens. It is he who made the earth by his power, who established the world by his wisdom, and by his understanding he has stretched out the heavens. When he gives forth his voice, there is a tumult of waters in the heavens, and he causes the clouds to ascend from the end of the earth. He makes lightning for the rain, and brings out the wind from his storehouses. Every man is senseless, devoid of knowledge. Every goldsmith is put to shame by his graven images. For his molten images are a lie, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, a work of mockery. In the time of their punishment they will perish. The portion of Jacob is not like these, for the maker of all is he, and Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name. Gather up your bundle from the ground, you who inhabit a land under siege. For thus says Yahweh, behold, I am slinging out the inhabitants of the land at this time, and it will cause them distress, that they may find it. Woe is me because of my injury. My wound is desperately sick. But I said, truly this is a sickness, and I must bear it. My tent is destroyed, and all my ropes are torn out. My sons have gone from me and are no more. There is no one to stretch out my tent again, or to set up my curtains. For the shepherds have become senseless, and they have not sought Yahweh. Therefore they have not prospered, and all their flock is scattered. The sound of a report, behold, it comes, a great quaking out of the land of the north, to make the cities of Judah a desolation, a haunt of jackals. I know, O Yahweh, that a man's way is not in himself, nor is it in a man who walks to direct his steps. Discipline me, O Yahweh, but with justice, not with your anger, lest you bring me to nothing. Pour out your wrath on the nations that do not know you, and on the families that do not call your name, for they have devoured Jacob. They have devoured him and consumed him, and have made him desolate, his abode. I think that's the end of the chapter, yeah. Okay, so what all is being said there? It's a lot, but.
So essentially, the thing that kind of stood out to me is gather up your bundle, you inhabit a land under siege. So I also like that. And then you kind of go forward a little bit, so go to the next slide. And then woe was to me because of my injury. And he's talking about how like the siege is a sickness, or the Babylonians coming is a sickness he must bear with them. He's also talking about like how, I guess some of this can be taken as imagery, but he's talking about how some of the Israelites are potentially already leaving because he's talking about his sons departing and leaving. He's talking about how like even the fundamentals of their society are following like the shepherds, right?
Yeah, this is a leadership.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is talking about Judah, right? This is the city under siege, and so the tent is destroyed. The people have gone out. This is the destruction of Judah, as them going into exile.
Well, it's from Jeremiah's perspective, right? Where he's saying my tent is destroyed. It's just so heartbreaking because, like, again, woe is me because of my injury. It kind of calls back to mind, like is there any balm in Gilead? Like the idea is like the imagery that he's using to describe this destruction is that it's something that like injures his own soul and his own heart, and it hurts him. And then he says, "My tent is destroyed." Like it just reminds us this is his home too. Like all because he's the prophet doesn't mean that he's escaping this. It's like, well, no, like my house is going up in flames as well. And the fact that he even calls it a tent it is like captures the fleetingness, right? It's like, because obviously he probably dwelt in an actual building, but he calls it a tent because it's just going to come and go, right? And there's one thing he said earlier. I was trying to find what verse it was. It's where he talks about God's portion.
Yeah.
What verse was that? It was earlier on.
Yeah, 16.
Verse 16. Yeah, where it says, "The portion of Jacob is not like these, for the maker of all is he, and Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name." And, well, Sean already has given me a look, and maybe y'all are putting it together, but this is a reference. Anybody have a guess as to what it's a reference to? Deuteronomy 32. Yeah, so it says this in verses 8 and 9 of Deuteronomy 32. "When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of man, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the sons of Israel." Most translations say the sons of God, though. "For Yahweh's portion is his people, Jacob is the allotment of his inheritance." I just wanted to highlight that it's there, and that's where you get it from. And if you think I bring it up too much, these aren't stretches. It's clear references. Like, it was important to do Jeremiah as well. But the whole point is that all the other nations, they're bowing before these other gods, and that makes sense because that's who their God is. Their God, they're just nothings, right? They're just like, yeah, they're the tiny little gods that can be personified in these tiny little objects. But he's like, but our people aren't supposed to be like that. Like, God is our portion. Like, we belong to him. Like, he can't be confined to these stupid little objects, so why the heck are you bowing down to them? Like you had like a 10, but you settled for a 2. Like, why would you do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you had the best of the best, and then you went and like chased after a prostitute. Like, that's bonkers. And so that's why he's just frustrated, because it's like, guys, stop being stupid.
And it even calls back farther to Joshua with the tribe allotments, and then you have Lot and his daughters, and then how the foreign nations are kind of dispersed and distributed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just, so a second ago we read, he points out how, like, the idols are like, they're works of craftsmen, right? So these are just people, they're shipping in gold, shipping in silver, cutting down trees, hewing out stone. These are the gods of the nations. And then we go on to who Yahweh is, and it talks about him who has like made the heavens and the earth, as contrasted with the gods that did not make the heavens and the earth. And he actually says they're going to perish. But yes, he talks about God's attributes as being like the creator. That's why he says that every man is senseless, devoid of knowledge, because God revealed themselves to them, but they did not know him. They did not give him the due worship that he deserved. And so he's just kind of pointing out, like, again, like what David said, God is way up here and they are falling down to gods that are way down here.
So I think God really loves his people. And what I didn't notice before until I was studying this today about the exile is, isn't there like 70 years, right, where they're exiled for 70 years, but then God brings them back?
Yeah, I think about 70 years.
Because that's what I think happens, is that God is the father of these people, and he's disciplining them, correcting them out of love. But then we're going to read a whole bunch, like judgment. But that's discipline. That's like, as affirming his love is like firm, like his justice is good.
I think we kind of talked about that last time with like the fatherly.
Yeah, we talked about that in previous weeks, where it's like, it would be more unjust for God to let his people go unpunished for the sin that they have committed than for him to discipline them with the, boiling pot, as the parable in chapter 2 describes Babylon as.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, even here that's mentioned, is that, like, that is one difference, is that God's, like, there isn't a complete destruction. And that part of that is because God is disciplining them, so he is bringing them to near the point of destruction, but there is no discipline if he lets the entire nation get destroyed. So he will preserve a remnant, and that's why, here we have, again, calling back to what's going to happen, which is that from the north we're going to have the Babylonians coming. And that's why Jeremiah says, discipline me, O Yahweh, but with justice, not with your anger, lest you bring me to nothing. And then he calls God to turn to the nations.
Oh, I wasn't doing
Okay.
Sorry.
And then he calls God to turn to the nations instead that don't know you to judge them. But part of what Jeremiah is calling for is like, he's not asking God to not do anything. He's just saying, please do not destroy us. Like, bring us, discipline us, but in justice. So follow your word, follow your glory, seek your glory, but do not just destroy us because of the problem. Like, as Deuteronomy 32 says, I would destroy them, but he didn't want the nations to think that they did it themselves.
It kind of reminds me of an Adam and Eve in Genesis, where they die, but but that's a spiritual death. So here they're saying they will be scattered. They're definitely scattered. They're definitely corrected. But maybe the prophet. I don't remember, but the prophet is going to say don't they come back again later?
But yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, if you discipline your kid, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, killing your kid isn't going to discipline them. They're dead. Sorry, that's kind of a dumb thing to say, but like, they don't learn the lesson. They, in the same way, like, you wouldn't destroy Judah to teach them a lesson unless you were just simply teaching the nations a lesson. But he's trying to mold Judah into the thing that he wants them to be, and so it wouldn't really do too much good to just like destroy them entirely. But he is going to, burn off the bad branches that aren't bearing fruit. And so he's going to preserve a remnant, and hopefully that remnant will learn from the previous generation. That's what he did in the wilderness. That's what he did just throughout history. And so the same thing's going to happen here. He's going to burn away the bad branches, and the intention is that the next generation, just as like the audience here, or in like Kings, this would be the people in exile. Their goal is to learn from the mistakes of the previous generation.
Dallas, were you going to say something earlier before Nick cut you off? Okay. I just wanted to give you a chance because you started saying something about what we were talking about in regards to the judgment.
I was talking. Nick, he just picked up on what I was saying with like the kind of like that fatherly disciplinary love, and how we were talking about last week, and how you get spanked whenever you're younger, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I was kind of flipping around, and I looked in Ezra chapter 1, and I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but he's eventually going to prophesy about them returning, because in Ezra chapter 1 it says, in the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah.
Okay, yeah, we'll get there for sure, and that's also something that's in Deuteronomy as well. So we will get there. Does anyone else have anything else to comment on these verses? Okay, we can move on. So that's chapter 10. So we're reading chapter 10 with, again, Jeremiah is calling for God to judge the nations because they have devoured Jacob. The word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, hear the words of this covenant, and you shall speak to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and say to them, thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, cursed is the man who does not hear the words of this covenant, which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, from the iron furnace, saying, listen to my voice, and do according to all which I have commanded you. So you shall be my people, and I will be your God, in order to establish the oath which I swore to your fathers, to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, as it is this day. Then I answered and said, Amen, O Yahweh. And Yahweh said to me, call out all these words in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, saying, hear the words of this covenant, so that you will do them. For I solemnly warned your fathers in the day that I brought them up from the land of Egypt, even to this day, rising up early in warning, saying, listen to my voice. Yet they did not listen, or incline their ear, but walked, each one, in the stubbornness of his evil heart. Therefore I brought on them all the words of this covenant, which I commanded them to do, but they did not. Stop there real quick. What words is he referring to here? Like the covenants and that he made with their fathers.
The Torah.
The Torah.
The Mosaic covenant.
Yeah.
Talking about the Torah and the covenant he made with them when they came out of Egypt.
Wasn't this the command he gave to them right after he gave them the 10 Commandments? or was it a little bit later?
Yeah, so I guess more specifically what I'm referring to is also Deuteronomy, but just looking at verse 4 and verse 8, he says, I brought on them all the words of this covenant, which I commanded them to do, but they did not.
So like Deuteronomy 28?
Yeah.
You're talking about like the blessings and curses?
Curses, yeah. So I just to, like, again, make things more concrete. So, and this is mentioned earlier as well. Well, two things. One is that we've been talking about how God is going to do his word through all this. So this is, again, calling back to the Torah. Another thing is, again, here, notice that even in these verses, whenever he's talking about the covenants, what is the main command? What is the main command or commands that he's telling them?
Shema.
Listen.
Here.
To listen, and that to be his people, right? This is exactly what we read a few chapters ago, because we talked about the hypocrisy of the religious leaders, how they were doing the sacrifices and they were doing the rituals, but they were ignoring the heart of God's law. And he said, listen, before I gave you this law, the first thing I asked of your forefathers was to listen to me, to obey me, and to be my people. That preceded the law. And so just pointing that out, the same thing is going on here. He is calling them to recall the covenants that he made with their fathers. And again, it is about obeying his commandments, but what does that really mean? It doesn't just mean making sacrifices. It means to be his people, to listen to God's voice, to keep the way of Yahweh.
I think it's kind of interesting that God makes a promise, like the covenant is that God says on his side that he will fulfill it. But then he said, if you won't do these things, then I will punish. And then they don't do it, so he has to follow through with the punishment.
Well, yeah, it's
It was a conditional promise.
Yeah, conditions.
yeah. If you do these things will be well with you. And so, again, just
And a lot of it's like the relationship, it's love, but what God's striving for is the obedience
yeah,
of the people.
right. And yeah, he has to discipline them to, like, again, he's trying to mold them into the nation that he wants and needs them to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like, people, they forget what the end goal is, right? Like, they think that God's just like, why does he have all these rules, and why is he doing all this stuff? And, like, they think he's being mean, but, like, he's got an end goal. Like, the reason why he chose Israel and gave them these commands is because he wants to bring people back to himself. And whenever they refuse to walk in those commands, they're putting the entire plan in jeopardy. Because, like, it's like, I mean, it's the same thing whenever Christians fail to live for God. Like, we exist to spread the kingdom of God. And if we do not live for him, we become hypocrites, or we just become slothful people who don't do anything useful. And so, like, the reason why he gets so mad is because it's like, this story is much bigger than just them, right? They were born into a much bigger story, and it's easy for us to heart be like, man, why is God being so harsh? It's because everything's at stake. It's like the fate of all humanity's eternity hinges on this plan going right. And he's going to accomplish it no matter what, but it grieves him that, like, a lot of these people aren't going to be part of that plan because, like, they're squandering the opportunity he gave them, you know? And so, like,
Yeah.
it's just important to remember.
I always liked that Jacob wrestles with God, and he's fighting over the blessings, but Jacob wrestles with God, and I also think the role of Jeremiah the prophet is that, like, he's not only wrestling with God, but he's, like, wrestling with Judah. Like, these God's people, he's wrestling with them. Like,
well, yeah, he's not really contending with God. He's more so just grieved, and he's like,
yeah,
sometimes he'll be like, why, God? Or, asking for help. But yes, he definitely is contending with, and that's why we're going to get later on to, like, and we've talked before already about how God is going to protect Jeremiah and how he is going to be as like a fortified wall to them. Because unfortunately, the walls of Judah are going to break down to the Babylonians, but they're not going to do the same thing to Jeremiah. But yeah, just wanted to clarify that with the covenant. So that's through verse 8. I will keep reading. Then Yahweh said to me, a conspiracy has been found among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They have turned back to the iniquities of their ancestors who refused to hear my words, and they have walked after other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant, which I cut with their fathers. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, behold, I am bringing calamity on them, which they will not be able to get out of. and they will cry to me, yet I will not listen to them. Then the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem will go and cry to the gods whom they burn incense, but they surely will not save them in time of their calamity. For your gods are the number of your cities, O Judah, and the number of the streets of Jerusalem are the altars that you have set up to the shameful thing, altars to burn incense to Baal. But as for you, Jeremiah, do not pray for this people, nor lift up a cry of lamentation or prayer for them, for I will not listen when they call to me, because of their calamity. What possession has my beloved in my house, when she has done many schemes of wickedness? Can the flesh, which is set apart as holy, take away from you your calamity, so that you can exult? Yahweh called your name, a green olive tree, beautiful in fruit and form, with the noise of a great tumult. He has kindled fire on it, and his foliage has the evil demise. Yahweh of hosts, who planted you, has spoken forth evil against you, because of the evil of the house of Israel and the house of Judah, which they have done to provoke me to anger by burning incense to Baal. Stop there. So what is he saying there?
So I just want to highlight that basically all of Jeremiah chapter 11 is basically God just being like, hey, remember Deuteronomy 32? It's all happening. Like, it's like I mean, and I say that as a joke, but it actually is serious. Like, literally, Moses said, whenever they prosper, they'll rebel. They will turn to other gods. God will hide his face. He will afflict them to the point of destruction. They will cry out to them. He will not listen to them. And he will let them be basically destroyed to the point of near annihilation, and then he's going to save them. And that's exactly what he's explaining to Jeremiah. He says, Israel rebelled, and I'm going to judge them. I'm going to hand them over to the nations. They're going to call out to me. I'm not going to listen. Like, so it's like, he's literally just explaining exactly what Moses said would happen. Which ties into him saying they broke the covenant. It's like, even though they broke the covenant, God is still committed to not breaking it. Right? And his judgment is part of that, which is actually kind of cool. Like, it's like, as he's criticizing them and being like, I can't believe you broke the covenant, he's still being like, I'm going to fulfill the covenant even harder to somehow make you fulfill the covenant, which is, it's like an interesting fail-safe that God had built into the covenant, to where it's like, whether Israel, like, even though it's a conditional covenant, whether they obeyed it or not, it was still going to be fulfilled. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting, right? So, like, there's other covenants, like the Abrahamic covenant, like, those are just unconditional, to where God's not going to do it no matter what. Whereas even in the Old Covenant under Moses, which was conditional, God still had a fail-safe in there where it's like, even if you fail to keep your end of the deal, I'll work things out to where things work out in the end. Like, I was like, that's just very wise. It's kind of cool.
Might take you 40 more years, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like how he calls back again to God's basically telling Jeremiah not to lament for the people of Judah, because Jeremiah's been doing a lot of that. He is saying, you know, if there's anything you should be doing, it's weeping for the land. Yeah. Because they polluted it with their sin, and the land was innocent. You know, the people of Judah were not.
Yeah, I'm saying to not, not pray for them or to not cry out for them, because, well, first they've done enough, but also God is going to do what he's going to do, and so there isn't really changing his mind in that regard.
I think verses 11 and 14 in particular are just, they're pretty convicting on like a practical level. So go back to verse 11 real quick. So it says, therefore thus says Yahweh, behold, I am bringing calamity on them, which they will not be able to get out of, and they will cry to me, yet I will not listen to them. Mm-hmm. That's a scary verse. Yeah. Just because the idea is like, I mean, you have to remember who these people are. They're his people. Right. And he says, I'm going to put them through something hard, and they're going to cry for me, and I'm going to shut my ears. Like, I don't know if a lot of Christian theology is content with that. Yeah. Right? But like the imagery, it's like if you knew that your kid was involved in drugs, and not only were you going to let them go to jail, you're the one who calls the cops on them. Right? You call the cops, you have them taken to jail, and they use their one phone call to call you and ask for bail, and you say, no, you're staying.
I don't think the internet's all that reliable, but I heard a story that said the shooter, Charlie Kirk, his father was the one that turned him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah. But in this case, like, and this is God we're talking about, right? where God is like, yeah, I'm going to send calamity on my own people.
And there are, sorry for cutting you off, there's examples of him being, I guess, more gracious in like the book of Judges, where it's like the cycle is pretty much the people of Judah, or the people of Israel sin, like the tribes of Israel sin, then they get oppressed by an enemy, then they cry out to God, and God delivers them. Whereas in this instance, God is very explicit in saying, I will not deliver you until you are nearly destroyed. Yeah. It's just like, this is the full fulfillment of the covenant which I gave to you because you are the ones who broke that covenant.
And it makes sense because Judges is at the beginning of their story.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas now it's like, no, y'all been around for hundreds of years, you should know better. But then even, again, for us, practically speaking, we've got to realize that there's a danger of this. I mean, like me, Sean, and Nick, and George have been walking through The Mortification of Sin by John Owen. And in that book, he talks about how even with us as Christians, if you harden your heart enough, there's a time where God's just going to hand you over. And, you know, like the cool thing is that if we do cry out genuinely in repentance, God will hear us. But in this case right here, I mean, you have to realize that what he's talking about is not necessarily in terms of salvation. He's talking about whether they're going to be delivered from Babylon, right? They're going to ask for deliverance from Babylon, and he's saying, no, you're going to deal with the consequences of your sin. And the same is true for us as well, right? We might cry out in repentance, and God will forgive us, but that doesn't mean he's going to necessarily remove the consequences of our sins, right? He might say, okay, I forgive you, but you're still going to have to deal with everything that I sent your way. But like right here, it says, I will not listen to them. Like, and that's not unique to Jeremiah. Like Amos said the same thing hundreds of years earlier, where he says, like, yeah, God hates the sound of your songs. Like, we immediately think, oh, I'm praying to God, therefore I'm in the right.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah's like, no, not necessarily. And then go to verse 14. That's the one y'all were just quoting. But it says, but as for you, do not pray for this people, nor lift up a cry of lamentation or prayer for them. Like, it's kind of ironic that Jeremiah will go on to write the book of Lamentations. But in this instance, God is talking to Jeremiah, and he says, Jeremiah, I get what you're going through, and I give you full permission to weep on behalf of the home you're losing, but I do not give you permission to weep for this people. Which is pretty wild, like from a ministerial perspective. To be fair, I think these are rare instances.
Yeah.
But basically what this is communicating is that there's a time and place for compassion. And there are a time and place where that compassion comes to an end. Earlier, before we started, George was talking about the whole Jubilee video with Allie Beth Suckley.
There's such a thing as toxic empathy.
Well, yeah, and she was talking about this in the video where she was saying that there is a thing that we could call toxic empathy, where often as Christians, we will just immediately say that empathy is a good thing. And that is generally true, but sometimes it can become, like, if we just openly embrace empathy in all situations, we might actually engage in, like, justifying or encouraging sin.
Yeah, you encourage someone in everything. You do everything you want, then take it too far.
And it seems like that's kind of a similar point what God is talking to Jeremiah about right here, where he says, it's okay if you're sad for the people, but I do not give you permission to lament for them. Because, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you grieve what is coming upon them, but I do not give you permission to feel bad for them, because they get exactly what they deserve.
So, like,
which is a scary thing for us to realize. Like, again, we have to show caution in knowing exactly when and where that line is at in our own lives, but it does tell us that apparently that line does exist, right? And you have to be very careful, right? I mean, in general, we should have a disposition of graciousness towards people, but we should be aware that from God's perspective, there is a time and place where grieving with like compassion might not be the perfect answer.
Yeah, you gotta confront them at some point.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Let me say, for example, there's this girl in my class, and I straight up, she's a lesbian. I straight up told her, I'm like, look, I think homosexuality is a sin. There's nothing you can tell me that's going to change that.
Yeah, but in this case, we're talking specifically in-house, right? We're not even talking about like outside. Like, we're talking about like the people of God,
Yeah.
right? Like the equivalent of this would be, like, in general, you know, we pray for our churches to thrive, right? But like I think of Habakkuk, who we recently covered. Habakkuk, by the time you get to him, he's saying, God, when are you going to judge this people? Like, your people are so sinful, when are you going to judge them? And it's almost like that's what God is telling Jeremiah right now. He's saying, Jeremiah, don't pray for me to hold back. He says, don't lament for them. You should pray that I will judge them, and I'll judge them partially. And the scary thing is that means that there's possibly a point, even in our churches, where we say, God, we need judgment. Like our church has strayed so far from you that we need you to discipline us severely.
Yeah.
Which is scary because I don't think you hear that preached very often. Typically, it'll just be like, oh, like, we'll just like say words like, oh, pray for our churches and like, pray for revival. Yeah, or maybe sometimes it's like we need a total reformation, and usually reformation comes through things being destroyed and then rebuilt.
No, what's funny is in James, towards the very end, he talks about like, if there is a man sick, like let him pray. But whenever he talks about like the prayer of a righteous man being effective, he references Elijah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it actually took me a while to realize this, but like when you read it, you're like, wait a minute, because you would think it would say Elijah prayed that it would rain, and it rained. Mm-hmm. He says Elijah prayed that it wouldn't rain, and didn't rain. If you go back to the story that he's referring to, that is Elijah basically praying for judgment on the people because they have not been listening to him.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing there, and obviously, and then God listened, right? There was a famine in the land.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like if we went around praying the reverse of Psalm 51, right? We were talking about this earlier, like. Where David says, create me a clean heart, O God, and restore to me the joy of my salvation. It's almost like we said, God, our church needs to find you again. So I pray that you would remove from them the joy of their salvation so that they could recognize the vacancy, they could be grieved over it, and they would fall on their knees, repent, and seek you. Which is like, that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
But I think there is a time and place for it. And for again, we have to be very careful to not like overly jump there. We don't want to become big jerks who just like, wag our fingers in everybody's face. But to me, we have to be comfortable with that sort of theology.
Yeah.
Right? Or like even whenever we say like thy will be done, your kingdom come, your will be done, we have to realize we're praying for judgment. Right? And that's just stuff that we need to be comfortable with. I think a lot of Christians aren't. We have like the easy breezy, like ooey gooey Christianity. And that is not biblical Christianity.
Yeah. I agree. And another thing too, so in verse 16 he refers to this like olive tree.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too.
What's that? We can bring it.
No, I because I couldn't really tell if he was talking about Jeremiah being the olive or Israel as a whole, and like showing how much they've fallen from like their original form down to where they are at now, and its foliage as an evil demise, which is talking about the destruction of Judah.
Yeah, I would say, because this is something that this is imagery throughout the Old Testament and actually New Testament as well. But the idea of basically there is this tree that is Israel, and there are branches on it. Okay. And as we've seen, I think it was in Isaiah where it said that he was going to cut down the tree to like basically just the stump of Jesse. And later on, there's a prophecy that there will be a shoot from the stump of Jesse. So it's like he cuts down the house to near destruction, but there will be Jesus is going to rise up from that.
Okay.
And so
that's cool.
And you get to the imagery in like Romans, and probably other letters too, but I can't remember. But the idea of like that we've been grafted in, the Gentiles have been grafted in. It is the idea like. So here it says there's a great olive tree, and he's kindled fire on it, so he is burning off all the leaves.
Okay,
so
that's the destruction of Judah and the exile going on right there.
Yeah, it's like
kind of
in the same way that he is like burning off all these branches and foliage, he is destroying like the people.
Yes.
And so he isn't going to destroy the tree completely,
right?
Unless he will save our remnants.
Right.
In the same way, in the New Testament, it is described that he has burnt off the branches that don't bear fruits. He has grafted in the Gentiles, and so we are the grafted in branches.
Okay.
But as Paul will say, if he can burn off those other ones and graft in us, he can also burn us off too if we're not bearing fruit.
Right.
And so the tree is kind of like a metaphor for like the house of Israel, and so when he is kindling fire on it, he is burning off the branches that aren't bearing fruit. In this case, which is the most of the people. But does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense now. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was taking from it. It was just the wording is just very in general, kind of like an in general speaking term.
Yeah. So
to me, as being a new person reading the Old Testament, I've never really
gone into
it too much.
It's one of those like metaphors usually you'll see throughout, kind of like how like a line will be applied to like the Lion of Judah or even a lion applying to like other nations.
Okay.
It is often depicted as like a tree, and in this case, the foliage is the people. They have an evil demise, and so they're being cut off.
Gotcha. Because the only thing I know of the tree is when Noah saw the tree after it wasn't like the tree that he saw out of the ark on the day of light, the first day that the sun came
Was
out.
it the
sign of
bird?
life,
There were
yeah.
two birds, right? There was a
That's all I know.
one, like the crow. Was it the crow went first and then the dove?
I'm not entirely sure. to be honest.
Was
Anyways,
it just
to
the
tie
dove
back
or
to
the
Sean's
branch?
point about the tree and the whole, especially the whole grafting on Gentiles,
Yeah.
I just have to bring it up again. And I kid you not, these aren't stretches.
Yeah.
These aren't stretches
Dude,
because the
I'm gonna
language.
get you a T-shirt,
No,
bro.
I'll take a T-shirt. No, because it says a green olive tree, beautiful in fruit and form, with the noise of great tumult, he has kindled fire on it. Deuteronomy 32, right? It says, they have made me jealous with what is not a god. They have provoked me to anger with their idols. So I will make them jealous with those who are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a wickedly foolish nation. He says, you've made me jealous with idols. I'm going to give myself to the nations. And then he says, for a fire is kindled in my anger.
Okay.
Right? And it burns to the lowest part of Sheol. It consumes the earth with its produce, and it sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. Right? So it's the same imagery of fire being burned. And so in this case, he is burning the tree, and the idea is that he is going to give somebody else the gift of himself. Right? And ultimately that's going to be, to the Gentiles. I just want to highlight that because first off, it ties in all these passages together, right? It
Yeah.
ties in stuff from Jesus, from
Yes.
Paul, from Moses. I just want to highlight that. I hate that I keep bringing this up because it seems like I'm like forcing it, but I'm not. It's like it's the same exact language, like kindling a fire in the anger. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically that is a point of what he's been saying is
Yeah.
that it is going back to Deuteronomy. It is
Yes.
going back to it isn't a new
Yeah.
thing.
yeah, I'm becoming self-conscious of how much I bring it up, and I'm like, I promise I'm not like I'm not forcing it. It just comes
I
out.
just think it's like you're writing yourself into a meme at this point.
I know, it's like, I feel like I'm turning into like a conspiracy theorist who's like everything, but it's like, it really does.
But it does. You're right.
Yeah.
No, I get it now. It's cool. I didn't really take that from that originally, but
Yeah. That's what's pretty much being said there.
okay.
And even the next verse, Yahweh of hosts who planted you, like the tree was planted in the land.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the noise of what does tumult mean?
Like which part? Oh, the noise of a great tumult. Like think of like a crowd or just like a great like uproar.
Uproar. Okay. Yeah.
It's like a
Like a-
disturbance.
Yeah,
Disturbance.
Like, it's tumultuous is like either like a
I heard
disturbance.
tumultuous before.
It's like clashing and banging and just like,
Gotcha.
Yeah, lots of sounds and confusion and stuff.
Okay.
Chaos. Yeah. So
18.
Shall we move on?
yeah, we stopped in 17. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We'll go ahead and move on. Moreover, Yahweh made it known to me, and I knew it. Then you showed me their deeds. But I was like a gentle lamb led to the slaughter, and I did not know that they had devised thoughts against me, saying, let us make the tree with its fruit a ruin, and let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his name be remembered no more. But O Yahweh of hosts, who judges righteously, who tests the insides and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them, for to you I have revealed my case. Therefore thus says Yahweh concerning the man of Anathoth who seek your life, saying, do not prophesy in the name of Yahweh, so that you will not die at our hand. Therefore thus says Yahweh of hosts, behold, I am about to punish them. The choice men will die by the sword. Their sons and daughters will die by famine, and a remnant will not be left to them. For I will bring calamity on the men of Anathoth, the year of their punishment. We can go through this part pretty quickly, but
verse 19 real quick. Does that language remind y'all of anything?
Mm-hmm.
What does it remind you of? I was like a gentle lamb led to the slaughter.
Jesus.
Yep.
Why does it remind you of Jesus?
Because he's he's the I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's the sacrificial lamb, right?
Mm-hmm. But what about the language in particular? Does the language remind you of something specific?
I've heard it being used before, but not to me, no.
Kind of like the innocent man being killed.
Yeah.
I feel like Jeremiah, well, we've touched on it, but he's comparing himself to Jesus in a way.
Like a gentle lamb led to the slaughter, let us cut him off from the land of the living. There's a very particular passage that should bring to mind. You probably hear it quoted around Christmas or Easter quite often. It's not from the New Testament.
Not Isaiah.
It is Isaiah. Isaiah what? What's the most popular chapter in Isaiah to Christians? The only chapter they actually know about.
53.
53! Yes, Isaiah 53. It says, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter. Like a sheep that is silent before its shears, so he did not open its mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off from the land of the living? That for the transgression of my people, striking was due to him. I mainly highlight this for several reasons. First off, there are a lot of people who will argue that Isaiah was written by two different people. One wrote chapters 1 through 39, and somebody way later wrote chapters 40 to 66. This would seem to prove that, because Jeremiah is clearly alluding to Isaiah, and Jeremiah is writing at the time period of the destruction of Jerusalem. And so Jeremiah was apparently already aware of Isaiah. Another reason I want to highlight this, right? Because he's clearly quoting it, because like the verse, like he says, a gentle lamb led to the slaughter. He says, cut him off from the land of the living. So the language is intentionally echoing it, and if you actually look at the Hebrew, it's like, I'm pretty sure it's word for word the same. And so he's intentionally quoting Isaiah, which tells us that he was aware of it, he was studying it, which is cool. Another reason is, I've told you that the Jewish people, how do they try to interpret Isaiah 53?
As Israel.
As Israel. So what is significant about this passage?
It's referring to Judah.
Well, is it referring to Judah?
Jesus.
Well, more so the people.
Referring to Jeremiah.
It's referring to Jeremiah, which tells us what?
Okay.
How does Jeremiah at least interpret Isaiah's passage?
It's about the Messiah.
Well, he views it as being about a single person who is a suffering servant, right? Mm-hmm. And so, in many ways, what Jeremiah is doing here is he's not denying that Isaiah's passage is about the Messiah. He's simply saying that he's going through the same things, right? But what he's clarifying is, like, he's telling us that apparently the earliest interpreters did not view Isaiah 53 as being about the nation, because it wouldn't make sense for him to bring that up here, because he would simply say, we're all like lambs to the slaughter. No, he's saying, all of y'all are guilty, and y'all deserve this. But he says, I'm like a lamb to the slaughter, because y'all are persecuting me for preaching the word of God. And so he views himself as a suffering servant who is foreshadowing the ultimate suffering servant. I just want to highlight that because first off, it tells us that Jeremiah was already aware of Isaiah's prophecy, which tells us it was already written, and it lets us know, like, this is our earliest commentary on Isaiah's passage.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because the earliest commentary actually goes against what current Jews will say, and the reason current Jews say that is because Christians say Isaiah 53 is about the Messiah, and current Jews don't want to admit that, and therefore they say, oh no, it's about Israel. But Jeremiah would disagree. And so I just want to highlight that because sometimes the Old Testament will explain itself, and I think that's kind of cool.
So he's like throwing some comparison in there with him to Jesus.
Yeah. Well, he's like, he's simply saying that, I think in general there is a stance where you could say Isaiah 53 speaks of just how the righteous people, like, there's a general idea that this is what righteous people will go through, right? Like they will be, like lambs led to the slaughter, to where like they will be persecuted by the people around them. But ultimately, the greatest fulfillment is ultimately going to be in Jesus, who literally led to the slaughter, and then he comes back to life and stuff. So
yeah,
I think that's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, like notice he quotes that part, but he doesn't also identify himself as the one like taking the sins of the world.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah, like he only identifies himself with like he shares some similarities and he echoes it, kind of how we would say that we want to follow in Christ's footsteps, right? Mm-hmm. Except Jeremiah as a prophet is following in his footsteps ahead of time. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
He's not delusional.
He's also suffering for it.
Yeah.
Too.
He's not delusional. He doesn't think he's the Messiah, but at the same time,
right, no,
he is still the one that God has chosen and sent to the people in order to declare His word. And so there is still that going on.
He's suffering.
So, yeah. So what through the rest of these verses, what's being said here? Like I said, the rest of it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, there's people who are seeking to kill Jeremiah for what he is saying.
So people are seeking to kill him. What does he say? Or how does he respond?
God says that they will die by the sword, and their sons and daughters by the famine.
Yeah. Or as I was saying, how does Jeremiah respond? He prays to God, and then God responds by confirming, like he listens to Jeremiah. Anything else to comment on here? Probably.
Well, I think one thing worth saying is that these people are telling him not to prophesy, but we're still only in chapter 11, so safe to say Jeremiah doesn't listen.
That's true.
He's like, I'm going to prophesy even harder. I'm only a fifth of the way through my book, actually. So.
11 out of
52.
52. Yeah.
So
this is kind of like the role of what prophets do, basically, because the reason they don't want him to prophesy is because he's saying to God, so then Babylon and natural disasters come on Judah as like punishment. And it just reminds me of the two witnesses in Revelation, where the role of the prophet, they can command fire and cause it to not rain and those sorts of things.
Well, just imagine a guy nowadays showed up at one of our churches and just
Exactly.
started talking mess about us and saying, y'all are all living in sin, you're going to be destroyed. We'd be like, dude, shut up and leave. Like,
Yeah, but imagine.
and if he kept
also-
showing up, we'd get very annoyed.
Yeah.
But also imagine and put like armies and natural disasters.
Yeah, very like tiny side comment or question. I forget, is Anathoth where he's from?
I'm assuming so. Like,
I think I don't remember if it said in the beginning.
I feel like it said that because I remember I looked it up in a previous week.
First time I've heard that.
No, it said we saw Anathoth before.
Yeah.
Jeremiah
Sounds like a video game boss.
True. Like
Like the very first.
yeah.
Like Elden Ring or something.
Yeah,
like
it says Jeremiah. The words of Jeremiah son of Hilkiah of the priests who were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I missed. I think I missed
I
like
was-
the first week of Jeremiah, so that's why I didn't pick up on it.
Okay.
And
I was just thinking of like the prophet has no honor in their hometown.
yeah. Oh yeah, that would make
How like
sense.
that happened to
I
Jesus,
kind
they
of
tried to
like-
kill him too for
Yeah.
prophesying.
I kind of like how it, like Jeremiah takes a moment to step away from the poetic aspects, and he's like, these people are trying to kill me, and God's going to punish them.
Yeah,
And this is a thing that happened.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's for
It's like, no, Bodge, you're here.
And
It's
I
a real
find
thing.
it interesting now that you mentioned his hometown that he's like saying even the people of my hometown are trying to kill me.
Yeah. Well, and that actually does still tie in back to Isaiah 53.
Mm-hmm.
Because it says like he grew up like a tender shoot, and there was nothing about his former majesty that people would like, appreciate him.
Mhm.
And so Jeremiah, like, it makes sense that he would even bring that up here, to where it's like, that is like a general thing. Like even whenever Jesus says it, he's stating like a general maxim. Like he says, "A prophet is without honor at his hometown." Like he's just saying that. This is true not even just of prophets, but just of anybody. Like the people you grew up with will inherently underestimate you. Right, to where they'll always view you as, oh, that's little so and so who grew up here. And so Jeremiah, he grew up in Anathoth, which is just like a little bit outside of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's in Benjamin.
A few
so,
miles, yeah.
Yeah. And so he grew up here. He's a priest. They all know who he is. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh yes, I'm hearing from God. And they're like, okay, Jeremiah. He's like, oh, y'all are living in sin. And he's like, okay, Jeremiah. Like they're rejecting him. Right?
Yeah.
And that's just a general thing that Jesus acknowledges, and it also falls in line with the whole suffering servant thing.
Yeah.
Which is also worth mentioning that Isaiah himself was also a suffering servant.
Yeah.
To where, like, really the prophets in general.
Tradition says
Nick,
he does.
how familiar are you with the book of Revelation? Have you read through the thing?
Is it relevant to what we're currently
Yeah,
talking about?
because the prophets, the two witnesses, so here in Jeremiah, God's protecting the prophet. If you read through the story of Revelation, like the whole world hates the two witnesses, like even the power of Satan, like the entire system is against them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, God's in control. His hand is protecting the witnesses. Like no matter how much they're hated, the force of evil
I
cannot
mean, he lets
kill.
them die.
Yeah, up to a point. But before that, there's a whole period of time where they're completely like they're hated because they're they're stopping the weather and they have powerful control and so forth.
Yeah.
Demonstrating judgment through those passages
Yeah.
as well.
I mean,
That's the connection. The
I guess,
parallel.
and I guess in a later chapter we will get to a part where, I mean, God isn't gonna obviously guarantee that he like has a great life, but he will reassure him with a sort of protection as well. So we'll get there relatively. I forget what chapter it is, but
Yeah, I'm just finding parallels with the prophets.
yeah, you're good. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. I don't know what our pacing's at. We're probably going a little slower than I would like to. Okay, we'll go ahead and read. Righteous are you, O Yahweh. So this is in response to what God said he was going to do how he responded to Jeremiah. Righteous are you, O Yahweh, when I would plead my case with you. Indeed, I would speak matters of justice with you. Why has the way of the wicked succeeded? Why are all those who deal in treachery complacent? You have planted them. They have also taken roots. They grow. They have even produced fruit. You are near to their lips, but far from their innermost being. But you, O Yahweh, you know me. You see me, and you test my heart's attitude towards you. Drag them off like sheep for the slaughter, and set them apart for a day of carnage. How long is the land to mourn, and the plants of every field to dry up? Because of the evil of those who inhabit it. Animals and birds have been swept away, because men have said, he will not see our latter ending. So that's Jeremiah responding to God, and now God's going to respond to Jeremiah. If you have run with footmen, and they have tired you out, then how can you compete with horses? If you fall down in a land of peace, how will you do in the thicket of the Jordan? For even your brothers and the household of your father, even they have dealt treacherously with you. Even they have called aloud after you. Do not believe them, although they may say nice things to you. I have forsaken my house. I have abandoned my inheritance. I have given the beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. My inheritance has become to me like a lion in the forest. She has given forth its voice against me. Therefore I have come to hate her. Is my inheritance like a speckled bird of prey to me? Are the birds of prey against her on every side? Go, gather all the beasts of the field, bring them to devour. Many shepherds have ruined my vineyard. They have trampled down my portion. They have made my desired portion a desolate wilderness. It has been made a desolation. Desolate, it mourns before me. The whole land has been made desolate, because no man sets it upon his heart. On all the bare heights in the wilderness, destroyers have come. For a sword of Yahweh is devouring, from one end of the land even to the other. There is no peace for any flesh.
Okay, can I stop real quick? I'm going to go all the way back to verse 2 here, where Jeremiah says, you have planted them, and they have taken root. They grow and bear fruit. You are always on their lips, but are far from their hearts. And that the second part of that verse stands out to me because it sounds a lot like what Jesus says about the Pharisee. Like, my name is always on their lips, but their hearts are far from me.
So what does he mean there?
He means they're like it reminds me of the Pharisees, because the Pharisees are like praying on the corner, like doing large donations to the poor in the public square, and doing all these ritualistic sacrifices for show. And then Jesus like comes up and rebukes them, because he's like, you fools, you're doing all these ritualistic things and you think that pleases God, but your hearts are not actually in the right place.
It goes along the lines of like being outwardly righteous but inwardly corrupt.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what's Jeremiah saying here in context with the rest of the passage?
Israel grew fat and kicked. Like he's saying that God planted them as a vineyard, but they have not done what He appointed them to do. Mm-hmm. Right? So he's saying that they call on you, but they don't actually call on you. It's like they just give lip service. Which you compare it to the Pharisees, I would just compare it to the modern church, because I think there's a lot of people who we stand in church on Sundays and stuff like that. We raise our hands and we sing, but do we mean it, right? I mean, we call out Christ on Sundays, we call ourselves Christians, but do we live for Him?
What do you do for the rest of the week?
But back to this point, God has just told him, I'm going to destroy them, and he says, good. But like he kind of just like, he says, righteous are you. Like he's not saying that he necessarily enjoys the thought of it, but he acknowledges that God is good in His judgment, and therefore that ultimately it should take place. There's one thing he says, I think it's a little bit later on, is it like verse 8? Actually it was earlier, sorry, verse 4 maybe. Yeah. How long is the land to mourn, and the plants of every field to dry up, because of the evil of those who inhabit it? Animals and birds have been swept away, because men have said, He will not see our latter end. And his whole question, it seems to be, I could be wrong here, but it seems like he's saying, like he's asking, how long will their destruction last? Where he's saying, okay, you're going to judge them, and they deserve it, right? That's really what verses 2 and 3 were explaining. He's like, yeah, this is why they deserve it. And then you get to verse 4, and he says, but how long is this going to last? Right? Like, how long is it going to go? Like, how long is the land going to be at rest? How long are the birds and stuff, how are they going to suffer because of these stupid people who thought you didn't see the end of the story? And the reason why I had to bring up that part is because of Deuteronomy 31. But Deuteronomy 31 is actually setting up Deuteronomy 32. Because Moses says, for I know that after my death you will act corruptly and turn away from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days. The Hebrew phrase is the same as the phrase translated latter ending. It's the same words. For you will do that which is evil in the sight of Yahweh, provoking him to anger with the work of your hands. And he says, because you do not know what's going to happen in the end, I'm going to teach you a song that will teach you what will happen in the latter days. And then he goes to Deuteronomy 32, and in Deuteronomy 32, whenever God says he's going to judge the people, this is a few verses before the ones I quoted last time, right, where he says that he will give them to other gods and stuff like that. In verse 20 he says, then I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. Right? And the phrase is the same, right? He said, like basically you can translate it, I will tell them what their latter ending will be. And what's interesting about that is he says, I will see what their latter ending is. And Jeremiah says, well, these people said that you have not seen our ending. And it's like, yeah, he did. Moses said he would. But then if you read Deuteronomy 32, Moses also says they're going to ignore this song. And they're going to think that God doesn't see their ending. Which is exactly what Jeremiah is saying, right? Jeremiah is saying, these people don't realize that you've had it planned from the beginning, and that's why you're judging them. And so, again, I'm sorry I keep bringing it up. But it's literally like the language itself is the same. Like the word latter ending, it doesn't show up that many times in the Bible. I mean, let me look.
I don't know what the words are, but it's definitely Joel.
Yeah, I mean, like that phrase, it shows up 60 times in the Bible. But
it's not that many.
Yeah. So, anyways, just wanted to highlight that. Like, that's verses 1 through 4. I didn't explain the rest of it, but...
Yeah, no, you're good. So, that brings us to verse 5. So, how does God respond to Jeremiah?
Kind of, by giving examples.
So, he asks him a question, and what does he basically say to Jeremiah?
Is he making it hard on him?
Well, first I'll say this. What chapter are we in?
Chapter.
Like, generally speaking, we're towards the beginning still, right?
Okay.
So, it's suffice to say that there is still a lot more things to come. Like, first of all, the exile hasn't happened yet, but also his ministry hasn't finished yet. He's still kind of in the beginning, and so
is he basically saying, like, if the actions of the people of your hometown have pushed you to this point, oh boy, are you in for a real treat when you go to the rest of the people of Judah.
That's
Exactly.
That seems to be his response. He's kind of saying like, "Oh, buddy, like, if this is how you're responding to this, then
it's like if you're already feeling burdened by this, yikes."
Yeah. How can you compete with horses? If you fall down in the land of peace, how will you do in the thicket of the Jordan? So, then he goes on to say, what else? What else here?
I'm getting. So is God talking to Jeremiah, or is he talking?
He's
about
answering Jeremiah.
He's answering Jeremiah.
So Jeremiah's the one getting tired and not able to. Like when it's gonna get bad, it's gonna get bad for him. Jeremiah.
This has been an ongoing dialogue between Jeremiah and God.
Okay.
And so Jeremiah was lamenting for his life.
Okay.
God said he was going to destroy the people, like the people that were seeking his life.
Mm.
And then he thanked God, but he went on to kind of lament some more.
Yeah.
And then God basically responded saying, like, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
And so that's basically also what he's saying here. But
so verses 5 and 6, he basically says, things are going to get worse. I know that your own people have rejected, like your closest people have rejected you, but it's not going to get better the further you go. Because like this is still the beginning of your ministry. Trust me, it gets worse from here. We can laugh at it, but at the same time, he's being gracious because he's kind of giving him a heads up. He's saying like, hey man, I just want you to know, if you're having a tough time with this, it is going to get worse, and so you need to get yourself ready, right? Normally he would say be strong and courageous, but I don't really think there's anything Jeremiah can do to really like it's going to be hard. But then he goes on and explains why, and it's like, well, it kind of goes to like what Jesus says, right? A servant is not greater than his master, right? And therefore, if they've rejected Jesus, they're going to reject him. And so God's saying, well, they've rejected me, and so of course they're going to reject you.
Yeah.
And he says that I have forsaken my house. I have abandoned my inheritance. I have given the beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. Right? They don't like that. It's like because of what I'm going to do to them, they're going to hate me, and as a result, they're going to hate you. And so it's gonna get worse for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
It's not exactly the same as with Samuel. It's like not the flip, but like kind of like how Samuel also was like saying, God, they rejected me, and God says, no, they've rejected me.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
naturally they're gonna reject Samuel.
Yeah.
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 So he's laying out how they have made his land a desolation, and destruction is coming. And
he calls out the king for ruining the land. Kings.
Yes.
For ruining the land. Saying, many shepherds have ruined my vineyard and trampled down my portion.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we discussed earlier that Josiah is king at the time Jeremiah's prophesying.
We actually, in the first prophecy he receives a yes, but it seems like this is at a different point in time, based on the beginning of chapter 10.
Okay.
Where it kind of like, or chapter 11. But we're really not sure who's king at the time.
Because
we don't technically know how chronologically it goes.
Because Josiah renewed the covenant in a sense, and then here we see in 11, right? We see the covenant is broken, so that might be an indicator of something, though we won't know for sure.
Well, and even then, while Josiah did a bunch of amazing things, there's nothing that necessarily tells us that like every single leader in the nation was on board with that.
I mean,
and so like the idea is that they were still probably pretty corrupt, but Josiah did his best to try to leave the place better off than it was. And he tried to remove a lot of the stumbling blocks, but you can't force people to like all because the king's like, hey guys, we're gonna be better. It's like not everybody's just gonna go along with that. But
wasn't Jeremiah a child when he first received the vision from God?
Well, we don't know how old. He just says youth, which could be our age, but it could also be a teenager.
Yeah, the word can refer to like anybody between like I think like 12 and 30. So it's like I'd
say probably younger than 30.
Yeah.
Because that 30 is also like when you become like
it's
more
like
like a legit like priest.
It would be pushing it if he was still around for the exile and he first received it when he was 30.
Yeah.
So we don't actually know for sure.
Yeah.
But
I'd be saying like Jesus was a youth when he began his ministry.
Yeah, there's a couple things I just want to put out here, and then we probably need to speak back up again. So there is no peace for any flesh. That does kind of summarize really what he's been saying here, which is that it's not really just the people suffering; it's also the land and also the animals too. Was it up here?
Are you looking for that phrase?
No. It was. It must have been earlier. It was a part where he mentioned like the animals, or maybe it comes up later. But it was one of the animals. Like there's nowhere for them to drink water and stuff. That must be later on. But the idea is everything is suffering because of what they've been doing, and then they have sown weed and reaped thorns. To me, this also calls back to like Genesis when God tells Adam the land is cursed because of him, and his idea of like God, like the sin of Adam is in some way the same sin that they have also been committing, which is eating the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, which is not seeking wisdom on God's own terms, but going the ways of the nation, going the ways of other gods. This is how he described the people as well when they first entered the promised land, that they ate the fruit and became guilty. And so it's kind of the same thing here. Like the land is suffering and the land has become cursed because of their sin. They have strayed themselves to no profits. but be ashamed of your produce because of the burning anger of Yahweh. Yeah, does anyone else have anything to say there before we move on? Okay, we go and move on. Thus says Yahweh concerning all my evil neighbors who beat at the inheritance with which I have caused my people Israel to inherit. Behold, I am about to uproot them from their land, and will uproot the house of Judah from among them. And it will come about that after I have uprooted them, I will return and have compassion on them. And I will cause them to return, each one to his inheritance and each one to his land. Then, if they will really learn the ways of my people, to swear by his name, to swear by my name, as Yahweh lives, even as they taught my people to swear by Baal, they will be built up in the midst of my people. But if they will not listen, then I will uproot that nation, uproot and make it perish, declares Yahweh.
Okay, I kind of like this because he's talking about like going out into the nations and grafting the Gentiles on as well.
Yeah, so explain that.
So in a way, it's kind of like we were using the fig tree imagery earlier, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's like, well, if God's people reject him, he's going to remove the majority of their branches. But then in the places of those branches he removed, he's going to graft on the remnant of the Gentiles to accept him. I guess that's kind of the best way I can describe it. There's probably a better way to articulate that.
Have you ever read the Romans?
Romans I have, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, again, something that goes back to Deuteronomy 32, where it says that, God will turn to the Gentiles because the people of Israel and Judah have turned to pagan gods for their worship. So.
Yeah, so he says, concerning all my evil neighbors, so this is the nations, who beat the inheritance, there's kind of two things here. One, he says he's going to uproot them from their land, and Judah among them. And so, as we will later learn, like he will also discipline and judge the other nations too. But at the same time, after he's uprooted them, he will return and have compassion on them, and he will essentially kind of give them the same, in a certain way, kind of the same offer as he gave Israel. Again, he will welcome them back in, but there's obviously still the same condition. If they will learn the ways of his people, and they will, swear by Yahweh, not by Baal, then they will be built up.
I think it's interesting how in this verse, like, God has compassion on his people, but then, like, kind of like in Romans, like, it's the same way he's going to bring in other people is by following, like, God's chosen people, like, they write the rules, they live it out. Even though they broke these covenant promises, like, they're still, the chosen people still have to, like, teach the other nations eventually how to come to God the right way.
Yeah, so I guess my next question would be this. Just because, again, big picture here, we were talking about God's word, which is, the Torah, things that have been talked about hundreds of years earlier. I guess I would ask, why would God do this? There's kind of a couple, I guess, reasons.
Because his plan is ultimately to save all of humanity, not just the people of Israel.
Mm-hmm. But, well, yeah. So I guess in essence it's kind of twofold, because it's not just to save all people, but also this is also part of his plan to save to save Israel. Mm-hmm. So, and how would that accomplish that?
That's kind of like setting an example almost.
By making them jealous.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on one hand, he's going to make them jealous because whenever Israel sees a bunch of Gentiles chasing after their God, they're going to be like, "Whoa, hey, that's our God. You can't have him." And they're going to be like, he's ours. And God's like, "Exactly. Yeah, come after me." And so he's going to make them jealous and come back to him. But then also, it has the effect of bringing the Gentiles in, which is like a reversal of like Babel, right? Because at the Tower, like Genesis 1-11, God is like dealing with the whole world. And they finally fill the earth, but the only reason they filled the earth is because he had to divide them and disperse them and make them speak different languages. And so there's this problem of like, wait, how is God going to bring all people back to himself if everybody's unified in like the rebellion? And so God picks one nation through whom to give them the single assignment of keeping his way. right? And protecting the way back to him. And so that's why if you go to maybe the next slide, it says, then if they will really learn the ways of my people and swear by my name, right? So it's like if they will learn like my people, right? Like if they follow the way of Israel, which is the way of Yahweh, and they become part of Israel, then they'll be restored to me, right? And that's because that's what Israel's job is. They're supposed to keep the way of Yahweh. And then like, this actually ties into the Ten Commandments. Whenever it says like, do not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, we typically reduce that to simply just being like, oh my God. But it's actually much broader than that. On one hand, it's saying don't just casually throw around the name of God, but also inherent to that is the idea that Israel themselves bore the name of Yahweh. And every single thing they did testified back to who Yahweh is. And so he says, don't take my name in vain. If you are my people, live like my people. And so right here it says, if they learned the ways of my people to swear by my name as Yahweh lives. To where it's like the idea is that the Gentiles are also learning what it means to bear the name of Yahweh, which is cool. Another thing I just want to highlight there is that phrase right there, just pay attention to that throughout Jeremiah, the phrase as Yahweh lives, because Jeremiah seems to use that as like a phrase that he repeats again and again as like a litmus test of like where the people of Israel are standing at the time. To where like earlier on, I was looking it up because I know it just shows up a lot. Like earlier on, Jeremiah in chapter 4, he promised Israel, and you will, or Judah I guess, and you will swear as Yahweh lives in truth, in justice, in righteousness, and then the nations will be blessed in him. Right? So he says, one day in the future, you will learn to swear by my name correctly, and in that day the nations will come back. Right? Or they'll come to me. But then, if you go to the next chapter, he says, if they say as Yahweh lives, then they swear to a lie. So at the time period, the people of Judah are swearing God's name, but they're lying. Right? To where it's like they're using his name in vain. Right? And then we get to this one, and then it's going to show up again and again. And what's interesting is that later on in the story, I just want to highlight this just because, in case we forget to bring it up again. He says, therefore, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when they will no longer say, as Yahweh lives, who brought up the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt, but instead, as Yahweh lives, who brought up and brought back the seed of the household of Israel from the northland. So he says, up until this point, you've always been boasting about how I took you out of Egypt. But one day, both you and the nations are going to swear by my name because of how faithful I was to bring you back to me. And I think that's just kind of cool. It's like he's saying there's going to be a second Exodus, and the second Exodus is not only going to bring the Jewish people to him, but the Jew and the Gentile.
That
which is just
you want to says really make me anxious about being a New Testament Christian or the modern church, and the idea of taking the Lord's name in vain, because essentially in America, or the church, we can be it's very dangerous that Christians or Christians can claim to be Christian and then live a life demonstrating that they're not God's people. They claim to be God's people and then live wickedly.
Yeah, that's why I think we need to preach on not taking the Lord's name in vain more often, because I think that people they get it wrong.
So what's taught early is applicable today for sure.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing just to mention is, on top of all that, there is still also the negative part, which is if they don't listen, that he will uproot that nation and make it perish. And so, honestly, not really too different than really what he has said about Judah as well. If they don't listen, he will uproot them, and he will destroy them. But yeah, so really cool. Just wanted to spend a little time on that, and so we'll go ahead and move on. What time is it?
8:45.
Okay.
If we go extra fast, since we started 20 minutes late, if we go extra fast with 2 chapters, we might be able to get it done. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We can try.
Yeah.
If we want to get through 5 chapters.
Thankfully, chapter 2.
We can get through 1 chapter for sure, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, machine gun, let's go.
So, okay, I'll go ahead and read on.
Read all 3 chapters in one go.
True. Thus Yahweh said to me, go and buy yourself a linen belt, and put it around your loins, but do not put it in water. So I bought the belt in accordance with the word of Yahweh and put it around my loins. Then the word of Yahweh came to me a second time, saying, take the belt that you have bought, which is around your loins, and arise, go to the Euphrates, and hide it there, in a crevice of the rock. So I went and hid it by the Euphrates, as Yahweh had commanded me. Now it happened that after many days Yahweh said to me, arise, go to the Euphrates, and take from there the belt which I commanded you to hide there. Then I went to the Euphrates and dug, and I took the belt from the place where I had hidden it. And behold, the belt was ruined. It was totally worthless. Then the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Thus says Yahweh, just so will I ruin the pride of Judah and the great pride of Jerusalem. This evil people, who refuse to listen to my words, who walk in the stubbornness of their hearts, and have walked after other gods to serve them and to worship them, let them be just like this belt, which is totally worthless. For as the belt clings to the loins of a man, so I made the whole household of Israel and the whole household of Judah cling to me, declares Yahweh, that they might be for me a people, for a name, for praise, and for beauty. But they did not listen.
Okay, so I kind of have to point out, it initially kind of seems like God's asking him to do like a weird thing, but then it comes like full circle and it's like, okay, it all makes sense at the end.
Yeah. Like,
So,
see this belt? What happened to it? That's what they're doing to me right now.
yeah. So, I guess you kind of already said, but yeah, what does God say? What is being said here?
What is a linen? What is that?
It's like cloth.
Girdle.
Yeah, girdle is probably a better translation. I think that this is one thing that does bother me about a lot of English translations is that translators are afraid.
It's like underwear.
Yeah, yes, that's basically what's being conveyed. It's underwear. But what annoys me is that a lot of translators are afraid to let the Bible be kind of crass. They want to kind of water it down, and so like the word belt, it doesn't even make sense. Like it's like the word girdle is probably the best translation. That's what the King James says, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, that's actually it's a better translation. Like it's like a loincloth, basically.
Yeah.
It seems like it's most likely like a priestly garment, but I think that's the only times we hear it mentioned in the Bible. So people are like, oh, it's a priestly garment. Maybe. I think the thing is that you don't hear about underwear being mentioned a lot in the Bible, and the only time it is mentioned is in regards to priests.
Okay.
But I think that the idea is that it's just underwear. So I think it is supposed to be a shocking image. Like to where you're supposed to be like, whoa! Like, because the thing is, if it's just a belt, it doesn't stick with you. But the point is, like, this is something that we're going to see again and again in the prophets, is that God is not beyond sending, like, object lessons that are very shocking and almost, like, seemingly inappropriate. And so that just always, it bothers me that like translators, like interpretations do shape how they translate things more often than we would like, which is, I think, a bummer. I mean, we've seen that with the one place where it's I like how Robert Alter does it, to where like whenever it says that God's going to destroy the people, he says like most translations it just says, I'm not going to leave behind one man, but the literal Hebrew says like, I will not leave behind a person who pisses against a rock or against a wall, right? And the idea, it's talking about men, but it's using very like profane language. And if you lose the profane language, you actually lose the severity of the point, right? If you just say, "Oh, I'm not gonna leave behind any men," it's like it's a general statement. But whenever the holy and righteous, perfectly just and beautiful God of the universe says, "I'm not leaving behind a person who pisses against the wall," you're like, "Oh crap, he's serious." You know what I mean? Like, and that's why it actually bothers me that like. It's like people, they're uncomfortable with who God is, and it shapes how they translate things. And that drives me nuts. It's like, no, like, you don't have to sanitize God. Like, let God's words be God's words. And this one isn't as severe, but it just annoys me, because it's like, no, it's definitely talking about, like, underwear. Like, because it says, oh yeah, I took a belt and wrapped it around my loins. That's underwear. Like, I don't know. It annoys me severely.
So, yeah. So he asked him, what does he ask him to do? He gets the underwear, and where does he go?
He goes to the Euphrates and buries it.
Yeah, to Babylon.
So to Babylon.
Oh.
He comes and then he brings it back, right? So they.
Do you know how annoying that would be? That's such a long journey for an object lesson. It's like, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So he goes to Babylon, hides it, and brings it back, right? So he starts off with, I assume, relatively clean underwear. Comes back, and what is he left with?
Dirty underwear.
It was ruined. It's dirty undies.
Yeah.
So,
which is like, because like I don't know, I'd assume they were pretty big on cleanliness. So this thing that's supposed to be clean going against your genitalia is dirty.
That's true. And there's probably also just the imagery of like, if you see underwear that looks like there's dirt stains on it, you're not thinking dirt.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily the intention, but either way, it's like dirty or soiled underwear. So he says, "Thus I am going to do to the great pride of Judah and the great pride of Jerusalem." So what is he like? What is the point? like they're going to Babylon and coming back.
I guess
soil it.
him God sending Jeremiah to Babylon is kind of emphasizing the point even further. He's like, look, this is what's going to
He's
happen.
alluding to the coming exile.
Exactly. So he's saying like, look, what happened to these loins in Babylon is what Babylon's gonna
So
essentially.
like
do.
he's giving insight into like I would say is partly giving insight into why he's like what the part of the point of the exile is. So and to that end,
I was just gonna say that like the whole lesson behind it seems to be that God is sending the people of Judah away to Babylon to be humiliated and humbled for their pride. And
Yeah.
then they'll be sent back and they'll kind of just be like, you know, shells of what they were before.
well, it's a common theme throughout really all of Scripture, but it is also a lot in Isaiah too. But the idea of like the prideful, like the high being brought low, and then the lowly being exalted, and it's kind of the same thing here. Like the pride of Jerusalem, the pride of Judah, they're going to be brought down low because they view themselves way too high than they should.
Yeah.
And
nobody wants to be compared to dirty underwear. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
and that's the idea. It's like the idea is that when they went off to Babylon, the underwear was clean, right? Because Judah, in their pride, thought they were cool, like good.
Yeah.
But he says during their time in Babylon, I will expose them for their like how disgusting they are, and they will realize their ruin. And so it's like he's going to expose the fact that they are dirty underwear.
Yeah.
And it's gonna take exile to do it. Once again, it's a very crass image, especially just because, and he's even going to bring up the whole like, as the belt clings to the loins of a man, like, it's a very like male centric image just because of the inherent pride associated with, I guess, again, it's crass, but the loins, right? It's like that's like a thing, like, you know, men are like, yeah, like it's a thing you take pride in, but you're being exposed for being ruined, right? And it's like it's one of those things like people don't talk about this passage very much, or they have to translate it as like belt or something like that because of how intimate the image is.
Yeah.
But it's not that dissimilar to like when God talks about, you know, lifting up their skirts and stuff. Like it's like he's going to reveal their privates.
Oh yeah.
It's a very similar image.
Yeah. Reveal their affliction, which
Yeah.
Expose their dirty underwear.
Yeah.
Yeah, or in some cases worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I would say that's again, because you have to remember, like there is purpose to all these things God's doing. He's not just simply punishing them just to punish them. Like punishment in and of itself, there has to be a purpose for it, and so it is for discipline, and because they have been trusting in a temple, they've been trusting in themselves, they've been trusting in them being Abraham's children. They have not been trusting in God. They've been trusting in foreign nations. So God needs to give them a reality check. God is the one who sustains them. God is the one who got them where they are. God is the one who gives them all good things. And so sometimes you need a big humbling to get there. And so, yeah, this is just insight into the fact that that's part of what the exile is intended for. It is punishment for sin, but it is also to humble them, to bring them back to God. So we can go and move on. Unless anyone else has anything else to comment on there.
About it for me.
One thing, I just had a question, and I know we need to move on to speed things up, but like, I was just trying to figure out why did he specify it wasn't supposed to be dipped in water? Do you know about that?
No.
I was just like, I feel like I've heard something about that before, I just didn't remember.
Probably because it would have, like, I don't know, strengthened it, cleaned it somehow.
So I would have thought it would have like ruined it more.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, it's almost like, I was wondering if that's like matter of like preserving it, because like,
Was that like a ritualistic thing they did back in
well,
the
I was thinking like if you like dip it in water and then go on that whole journey, like that stuff's gonna be even nastier. Whereas the fact that it's like clean before and like nothing's altered it, it's almost like I was trying to figure out if that like might be like something about like hinting at God saving them. I don't know. We don't have to do it.
I kind of got an idea, like, you know, dip it in water and you wear it, it cools you off, maybe.
Well, no. One also thing I kind of thought of is not everybody does this, but some people will wash like their undergarments or wash their clothes before they wear them for the first time.
Oh yeah.
And it could be like it could be something like where you buy a new pair of undergarments and you wash it and dry it before you wear it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to create a whole thing. I just didn't know if you had an answer or something. But
Yeah, no, you're good.
So it might have been like a cleanliness thing too. Who knows?
Something we can look up after, probably.
Yeah.
You're kind of cool. Okay. Therefore, you are to say this word to them. Thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, every jug is to be filled with wine. And they will say to you, do we not very well know that every jug is to be filled with wine? Then you shall say to them, thus says Yahweh, behold, I am about to fill all the inhabitants of this land, the kings that sit for David on his throne, the priests, the prophets, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, with drunkenness. I will shatter them against each other, both the fathers and the sons together, declares Yahweh. I will not spare, nor show pity, nor have compassion, so as to not ruin them. Listen and give ear. Do not be haughty, for Yahweh has spoken. Give glory to Yahweh your God, before he brings darkness, and before your feet stumble on the dusky mountains. And while you are hoping for light, he makes it into the shadow of death, and turns it into dense gloom. But if you will not listen to it, my soul will cry in secret for such pride, and my eyes will bitterly weep and flow down with tears, because the flock of Yahweh has been taken captive. Say to the king and the queen mother, take a lowly seat, for your beautiful crown has come down from your head. The cities of the Negev have been closed up, and there is no one to open them. All Judah has been taken away into exile, wholly taken away into exile. Lift up in your eyes and see those coming from the north. Where is the flock that was given you, your beautiful sheep? What will you say when he appoints over you, and you yourself have taught them? Former companions to be head over you. Will not pangs seize you like a woman in childbirth? If you say in your hearts, why have these things happened to me? Because of the magnitude of your iniquity, your skirts have been uncovered, and your heels have suffered violence. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then you also can do no good. Then also you can do good, who are accustomed to doing evil. Therefore I will scatter them like chaff passing away into the wilderness wind. This is your lot, the portion measured to you from me, declares Yahweh, because you have forgotten me, and have trusted in lies. So I myself have also stripped your skirts off over your face, that your disgrace may be seen. As for your adulteries and your lustful names, the lewdness of your prostitution on the hills and the field, I have seen your detestable things. Woe to you, O Jerusalem! How long will you not cleanse yourself?
Again, we continue with graphic imagery.
Yeah.
He's kind of just further
It's
emphasizing
not
the
as
point of
bad as
exposing them.
Ezekiel.
Yeah.
True. So I'd say all of this is kind of building off of the, not really parable, but the story we just read about with the underwear.
Yeah.
So first thing, just in a few words, what is the summary of what God said here?
One thing that kind of stood out to me is he talked about
So while he's finding that, the summary of it's basically him just saying,
there we go.
your enemy is coming, and you're going to get exactly what you deserve. And I'm going to fully expose your sin for what it is. And it like gets stronger and stronger. Where first he says, I'm going to lift your skirt. Then he says, you know what? I'm going to just lift it over your, like I'm going to remove it from you. So like the idea is you can't clothe yourself again, right? I'm just going to take your clothes from you. And then it says, I'm going to reveal all like specifically the last verse. As for your adulteries and your lustful names, like he's comparing them to a horse. It's pretty graphic. But the idea, like it's like not what you want to be compared to when you're supposed to be like a holy and pure, righteous people, saving yourself from
One
God.
thing really quick I did want to point out, Elegance 20, in verse 23, how it's like, can Ethiopian change his skin or a leopard change his spots? Either can you do good who are accustomed to doing evil. He's saying like, look, you're gonna say, oh, maybe we'll change, but you're really not.
Yeah.
He's like, it's too late. You're not going to change. You're so used to doing evil things and going after other gods that you're not going to change and you're not going to repent.
Like on that note, that's something that you see even like in like human relationships. I can tell you how many of my students, they'd be like, oh, don't worry, like this guy's gonna change, and I'm like, they're not gonna change. Like, I hate to break it to you, but like, and that's a central point to like the gospel. Is that the reason why we need Jesus is because we cannot change ourselves, right? Like that's the whole point, is that we are evil and we need somebody to intervene and make us good. And that's like, and Jeremiah's going to get to that, right? Because I would say that Jeremiah is actually presenting a problem, kind of like Isaiah did, right? Remember Isaiah, his problem at the beginning of his book is he said, though your sins are as scarlet, I will make them white as snow. And we're saying, how? Like, how can you do that? Like, how can you just forgive sins like that without it being unjust, right?
Yeah. Fisher biting.
Was that?
The Fisher biting.
Oh, okay. All right. See ya.
Alright,
So with the leopard spots and the
Yeah.
Ethiopian skin, is that talking about like your past sin?
Well, no, so like the imagery is like, he's just asking a simple question. He's saying like, can a leopard change his spots? What's the answer?
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
And Ethiopians refer, so he's saying like, for the
Like
message
it.
is like, yeah, like you might think that you can change, just become a good people, but you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because you're sinful, exactly. And so to me, it's very similar. Like, so Isaiah, the whole central issue was, how could God possibly forgive people? And that ultimately culminates in like the servant song of Isaiah, where he says, you know, there's going to be this servant who dies, and he's going to absorb the sins of the people to provide a way out. Whereas, like, I'd say Jeremiah, his whole thing is, you know, once again, is there a balm in Gilead, right? Like not only how can people become forgiven, but how can people become good?
How
right?
can we
Like,
change?
Yeah, how can we change? Like, that's the central question. And ultimately, at the culmination of Jeremiah, he's going to say, well, it's not even the culmination, it's like halfway through, but he's going to say there's going to be a new covenant, right? And God, like, obviously, the old covenant under Moses is not working, right? And so there's going to have to be a new covenant where God is going to have to put the law in people's hearts, right? And so, like, it's interesting, like, whenever you view it like that way, it's like, it's easy for us to, like, miss, like, the meta-narrative stuff, but it seems like that's, like, Jeremiah's central goal. It's like, we need, like, we've got a sickness from which we cannot be delivered. And like it's not enough, like we can't just ignore the sickness. We have to heal it. Like this thing is gonna kill us if we don't do something. And so Jeremiah's wrestling like, where's the balm? And like how is it like how can the leopard change his spots?
Yeah, the meta-narrative of the Old Testament is that there's a law, which can't keep it.
Right, see ya.
And they have prophets, but that's not working out. They have kings, but human kings fail to do the job. So all these tasks, it sets up, we need a Messiah. We need it. And the Old Testament just sets up, but humans can't do it on our own accord. Our own power is not enough.
Yeah.
Again, God will have to do it himself.
Yeah.
And so
I'll do it myself.
we can't change it of our own accord, so God will have to do something that will enable us to change.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. So just very unfortunate, but yes, God basically is saying here, you're going to get exactly what's going to happen, and it's also going to be very humiliating.
Well, he's saying, I'm going to expose you for who you truly are. Like, you can claim to be my people all you want, but I'm going to let people know who you actually are. And that's like, again, practically speaking, like if we bring that to the present, that is a scary thing, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to say, oh, I'm washed in the blood of Jesus, but then we're guilty of the same thing the Jewish people were doing and saying, oh, we're children of Abraham. God's like, okay, I'm going to expose you for who you truly are. You can call yourself a Christian all you want, but all that is in the darkness will be brought to the light. And it's like, that's a scary thought. You're like, oh, crud. Like,
if you were the children of Abraham, you would do what Abraham would do.
Yeah.
Keeping the way of Yahweh.
Exactly.
Here, quite literally, lifting skirts, I guess, over your face. Is that like off or just like almost like a wedgie?
Well, the fact that it says lift your skirts off over your face, like, I don't know, I'd have to look in language, like
in my head, I'm thinking about like over the head like a wedgie, like oh.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like, well, so it wouldn't be a wedgie. I think the idea is like it's
like
covering you up. But I don't know. Like the fact that it, I guess I can look up the language. Because earlier, if you go maybe the previous slide, he had said it seemed like he was like advancing something because he had said the same language somewhere. Oh gosh. It was
right there, 22.
If you say in your heart, why have these things happened to me? Because of the magnitude of your iniquity, your skirts have been uncovered and your heels have suffered violence. So it's like he's, like you're already being like exposed. And then you go on to where it gets to the one verse, it's verse 26. Let me look it up.
You reminded me of the this verse from a Johnny Cash song.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you may throw your rock, hide your hand, working in the dark against your fellow man, but as God made black and white, what's done in the dark will be brought to the light.
That's what he's quoting.
Yeah.
What song is that?
God's gonna cut you down.
Okay, yeah, God
Yeah.
cut you down. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, so it says, I myself have.
God does come back to this.
So the language, it literally means to strip.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what it says. I have stripped your skirts off over your face. So I think it literally just means to like take them off. Like the idea is like not only is he exposing them, he's removing their ability to cover themselves back up. Right? So it's like he's literally just lifting it all the way up, taking it over their head, and just
naked and ashamed.
Yeah, he's making them naked. Which once again, even that language that goes way back to Genesis, right? To where Genesis, you've got like this image of like them being naked and unashamed, and then the first thing they notice once they sin is their nakedness, right? Yeah. And like just that imagery, like it makes sense, right? It's like the idea of nakedness is like even to this day, it's like, well, I mean, I guess people are beginning to just openly embrace it nowadays. It's a good thing for nakedness to be associated with shame, but our culture's just kind of being like, nah, we're just gonna have people walk around naked anyways. And then they get confused when people are like lusting like crazy. But anyways, back to this. He's saying, I'm going to expose your nakedness, and I'm going to make everybody see you for who you truly are. Right? To where right now you're concealing yourself. But I'm going to make all things seen. And as your adulteries and your lustful neighings, the lewdness of your prostitution. Like the idea is that they're not even being just prostitutes. They're being lewd prostitutes. Like they're doing like unthinkable things. And the fact that he compares them to a horse.
Animals.
It's like, it's just, like the imagery is like, it's supposed to like make you uncomfortable, right? Like to where you're almost like trying to ask like, what is he implying? And that's the point. Like if you're uncomfortable, you're supposed to be. Because he's saying, yes, I'm uncomfortable with what my people are doing, right? They are not being a holy and sanctified, beautiful people. They are being lewd prostitutes. Not normal prostitutes, lewd ones. It's like he's absolutely disgusted by their actions.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Woe to you, O Jerusalem! How long will you not cleanse yourself?
Sounds like what Jesus said.
Mm-hmm.
Jerusalem, Jerusalem.
Yeah, and I guess even that, it's like they might read that and think like, oh, like ritual cleanliness, but
yeah,
really what he's getting at is it's inside that defiles.
And your hearts and not your garments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. What time is it?
It is 9:10. If y'all are fine with it, we can do one more chapter. I mean, we got through that chapter in under 20 minutes, so.
I gotta go.
Yeah. we can wrap up if you want, like, because this does start a new section, kind of, and so if you want, we can wrap up now.
It's up to what y'all want to do. I can head out, or if y'all want to wrap up, it's whatever.
I'm fine.
I gotta get up at 4:30, so.
Yeah. We can go and wrap up then. That's
okay,
fine.
we'll wrap up. Yeah.
It'll be easier.
4:30.
But for what?
For work.
You going at 5 or what?
No, I gotta get it to Waller around 7, but
Alright.
I gotta get up. Get
An hour
ready.
and a half, yeah.
Sweet.
Because that's.
Alright.
So, well, before we pray out, just really, just that's it. Is there anything else, any applications, or just anything else that anyone wanted to touch up on, or anything they didn't get to say earlier?
Oh, what's chaff?
That's like the part of like wheat, right? Like
Yeah.
Whenever you're separating
Oh,
the wheat
okay.
out, it's the part that you discard.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
no, you're good.
that's actually one thing that like questions like that come up a lot because the culture of the Bible is like so much more like agrarian and like it's agricultural,
Right.
whereas like some of the stuff just goes over our heads because we're
Yeah.
like, I don't know how bread is made. Like we're just like so it comes up a lot.
But again, like it's the idea of they're useless.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
discard the stuff that's not fruitful.
I mean, I kind of took that away from it, but I was like, what is chaff?
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps picture. You can paint the picture better.
Gotcha.
So don't do that. You're on camera. But yeah, so I guess final point you could say is be killing sin or sin will be killing you. To quote our boy John Owen.
And because you have forgotten me and trusted in lies. We've been talking about it a lot, but like in their day, the trusting in lies, that was trusting in the temple, trusting in their blood as being Abraham's descendants, and trusting in following all the rituals of the law and stuff to save them. And as Jesus points out, that's not what the law is about, and what about But for us, I think that there are also lies that are easy for us to trust in too. You know.
Maybe we're still tempted by legalism. Like maybe their problem is pride, but I struggle with pride. So like the law, I can keep the law, but I want to.
Yeah.
I want to be a good person. I want to say I kept all the law, and I'm gonna be right with God that way.
That's true. And like I don't necessarily. I guess what I'm saying is like they might have said, you know, oh, we're Abraham's children, but we can also say, well, I'm a Christian. I've been cleansed by the blood, and so that's enough. And so, you know, you may not change you may not change the way you live, but you simply trust in something that maybe you don't actually like follow, or
know truth, like know to the fullest extent.
Well, yeah, just like in trusting in just simply like going to church every week and trusting in like external things without actually having like an internal transformation, which is the problem here. They're trusting in essentially things God gave them. God gave them a temple. God gave them, you know, their nation. You know, God gave us things that we don't trust in those things to preserve us.
I don't know really anybody heard me earlier, but we were talking about going to church on Sunday, but it's like, what do you do for the rest of the week?
Yeah, that's true.
So
very true.
One song that it reminds me of, I was actually talking about this guy with y'all yesterday at the men's night, but a guy named Jimmy Needham, he has a song, it's pretty famous. I don't know if y'all heard it or not, but it's called Clear the Stage. And it reminds me kind of what God's doing to them right now, because like basically he's saying, I gave you all these things, and you're relying on them, but I can just as easily take those things away. And he's stripping those things away to force them to where all they have left is to trust in him, right? Which the thing is, God can do that to us too, right? To where it's like he can find the idols in our lives and say, you know what? I'm going to take all those things away from you because that's the only hope you have of turning back to me. And in Clear the Stage, Jimmy Needham, like his whole argument in the song is that we should probably do that so that God doesn't have to. Like it's like we should clear the idols away so that, you know, it doesn't have to come to discipline, right? So it says like, clear the stage, set the sound and lights ablaze, if that's the measure you must take to crush the idols. So in the context, you know, he's a musician and he's talking about like in churches, like, you know, performing with like smoke screens, like smoke machines and like flashing lights and stuff. That stuff's not inherently bad, but he says if that's the stuff that becomes like an idol in your life, clear the stage.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and he says do whatever it takes to get rid of that stuff. And like by the time you get to like the I was trying to find the bridge. It says anything I put before my God is an idol. Anything I want with all my heart is an idol. Anything I can't stop thinking of is an idol. And anything that I give all my love is an idol. And the chorus says, I can sing all I want to, I can sing all I want to, we can sing all we want to, and we can still get it wrong, because worship is more than a song. And the whole point of the song is just saying that, like, I mean, he doesn't bring up the connection between us and Judah and stuff, but the idea is that we have idols in our lives too, and they need to be stripped away. We can do it the easy way or the hard way. We can strip those idols away and learn to worship God rightly, or he can strip them away. If he's gracious, he'll do it in this life so that it forces us to seek him, or he might just wait until judgment day, in which case we don't have a chance of repentance. You know what I mean? And so I just think that's it kind of ties into what Jeremiah's talking about here.
Yeah, that's like my whole thing I've been kind of thinking about is like, you know, these people, you know, had a chance to turn back, and it's like, if you don't turn back, we go to hell.
Yeah. And so that's why we need to hear the words that Jeremiah is saying and like ponder them and actually apply them.
I think that was on God's heart that they were his people, and it's like it's earlier thing about the kid's drug addict. It's like your kid has been lost over to something else, like turned over to a false god, and I think that is what's the worst part about. Like they're taken over to a different god, and that's bad.
Yeah.
Like that affects God's relationship with his own kids.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, yeah, I'm not paying your bail, but for you, I'm not paying your bail for all of eternity. So.
Yeah, I know.
It's true. Anyone else? Anything else they want to say? Good.
What was that one dude you're talking about? The singer you're talking about earlier with the nails through the hands?
Oh, Ray Boltz.
What?
Ray Boltz.
Ray Boltz.
Yeah.
What was that first? What was the song about? I had the hammer in my hand.
It's called The Hammer, and then there's another one called Feel the Nails.
Okay.
Yeah. Once again, if you look at his lifestyle, he is not living a Christian lifestyle.
Yeah.
But the songs, he's got really good songs, and it's really convicting because you're like, wow, if a guy like that can write those songs and then live how he's currently living, that should be like sobering. You're like, ooh. Like, that can happen to all of us. And so it's like we have to keep ourselves on guard. Yeah.
Okay. Someone want to pray us out?
I'll do it. Okay. Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Thank you for Sean, and thank you for just giving him the wisdom to guide us through the book of Jeremiah. I pray that all of us have a good, safe week, and that we'll be able to return here next week to dive deeper and go through more of it. Let us not leave here unchanged, God, but let your word be planted in our hearts. Let it not return void, and let not a single word fall to the ground, but rather let it shape us to be more like you. Let us kill the sin that's in us. Let us kill the desires that would entangle us in those sins. And let us learn from the people of Judah, that we would not follow in their footsteps, but we would learn from Jeremiah and his words, and we would learn to seek after you with all that we've got. We love you and we praise you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.